Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a chat full of updates to recent videos. I really like these chats. I really do, because we can sort of just relax and sort of schmooze, and I don't have any specific program that's going to be, done in strict order. And we can just take things as they come, and I can talk to you about what I love to talk about, or one of the things I love to talk about, aside from music, which is recordings of music, and wonderful recordings of music. No matter how hard we try and how much we go back and forth and try and distill the finest versions of each work that's out there, there will always be more. That's the psychosis of the classical music record industry. And it's silly to leave out those recordings just because they weren't on my initial list. I mean, I have wider taste than that. So do you. We all talk back and forth. And as we talk, there are times when I go back and listen. I know some of you go back and listen. And I think we should, just chat about what our findings are. So let's just get started. This will be a quickie little chat, hopefully. First of all, the Bach ideal choral works on period instruments. There have been, one of the things I pointed out in that talk was that Bach used to be kind of a special case on non-period instruments. To do a major Bach choral work was a big deal. And there were some specialist groups that did them. And then to have, a major conductor with a major orchestra do them was quite unusual. Conductors like Eugen Joachim doing the Passions complete, that was a rarity, even in the 60s and 70s, And then when the period instrument movement got going, they all became a dime a dozen. They just was just constant recording of this repertoire over and over and over. And now it's no longer as special as it used to be. And that's a shame. We kind of missed something, because they should be special. Scarcity creates value. There is value in scarcity. That's another way of saying exactly the same thing in a different order, and to a certain extent, we've lost that. There was a time when I could go to record stores, and I used to. And, you would be able to just hang out and talk with people about your favorite recordings of certain works. And everybody knew what they were because they were limited in number and everyone had heard them. So there was a community of knowledge, a community of enthusiasts, all of whom were working from the same fund of experience. And it made for wonderful times. I mean, really nice, convivial times. And all of that has disappeared. It's just disappeared. No matter how many recordings of something I talk about, there's always a dozen more I didn't talk about. And you point them out to me. And I miss that. I mean, I may just be getting old, and it may be my nostalgia. But you see that, in my view, most potently in this situation with the Bach choral works, the great Bach choral works, because there's just so many of them out there now. And one of the ones that's been recorded about 1 billion times since the day is Bach's St. Matthew Passion. Because in the day, there was Klemperer, and there was Joachim, and there was like the horribly abridged Bernstein for people who could not, didn't have access to anything other than Columbia at their local record store. And then, that's what there was. I mean, and Richter was like exotic. In the United States, he was exotic. And I'm sure Bernstein was exotic over in Europe. I mean, the market was local. It was local. It wasn't international. And what a difference it made. Now with the St. Matthew Passion, I chose the Netherlands Bach Society on Channel Classics, a spectacular performance. But I did want to mention, because it's here at sort of mid-pricey thing, Herreweghe for the St. Matthew Passion, because Herreweghe's St. Matt is just wonderful. And he did it twice, at least. I don't know, maybe there's a third one now that he's not with Harmonia Mundi anymore, but he did it twice for Harmonia Mundi, let's say. This is the second one with the soloists, let's see, Ian Bostridge and Franz Joseph Selig and Sibylla Rubens and Andreas Scholl. It's really, and Dietrich Henschel, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. What Herreweghe brings to it is this sort of, I don't know, a gentleness, but a gentleness that's not lacking in fiber. There's a lilt, an onward movement to it that's gorgeous, but there's a certain luminous glow to this performance. I don't know how to describe it. But again, he did it twice, and his first one was gorgeous, absolutely wonderful, gorgeous, fabulous performance. And how do you choose between them? In a way, he almost disqualifies himself by doing too much. Everybody does too much. But I wanted to mention this performance, the Herreweghe's second St. Matthew Passion on Harmonia Mundi. So just to give him his due as an incredibly fine interpreter of the work, even if he did it too many times. Next, Haydn's Paris Symphonies. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of Haydn, I know, because we're now doing the Haydn Symphony Crusade. But we talked about, the Harnoncourt version of the Paris Symphonies, and then I did my ideal list of the Paris Symphonies. There is one set of Paris Symphonies I did not mention, and I think it's, it's a real sleeper. It's a real sleeper. It's a big band Paris Symphonies set that nobody pays attention to. Nobody paid attention to it when it came out. It's very, very good. Surprisingly good. Shockingly good. And that's Charles Dutoit with the Sinfonietta di Montreal. Now, originally this came out as a 2-disc set, and it's now back on Decca Eloquence, not Australian Eloquence, the other kind, wherever that comes from, on 2 separate discs. And these are beautiful, beautiful performances. Again, the Paris Symphonies seem to be the works that so many conductors who you would never expect to do Haydn, especially well, manage to really, do some of their best work with. And I don't understand why it's true. I don't understand what it is about the music that makes it possible. But with the Sinfonietta de Montreal, Dutoit turns in beautiful, exciting, fresh, lively performances of Haydn's Paris Symphonies. So if you happen to see some of this stuff floating around, you may want to give it a listen. It will surprise you. I guarantee it will surprise you. Next, remember the Janacek string quartets. We did a whole thing about Janacek string quartets, and one of the ones that was kind of confusing was the one with the Talich quartet, because they did them twice within a few years in the early 90s or late 80s, somewhere in there, once for Superfon and once for Calliope, which is now La Dolce Volta. And the couplings kept changing. The Calliope one had On an Overgrown Path, and I just looked it up. It's on La Dolce Volta, but with the Schulhoff First Quartet instead. The On an Overgrown Path piano piece has vanished, and the earlier one on Superfon is this one. Here it is. See, there you go. Pardon the glare. There it is, without a little less glare. And this one is coupled with Mladi, Youth, the Wind Sextet, which is just a fabulous piece. I mean, it's just great. And it's a great performance of that. And so this is the Superfon version with the Talich Quartet. There is so little to choose between them. I mean, they're marvelous performances all the way. I don't know if you can still get this. I don't know if you can find it, but I have it. I saw it, so I thought I'd mention it to you and try and straighten out a little bit of the confusion. So that's the other Talich Quartet version. Also, a version that I mentioned that I just wanted to show you what it looks like is the Superfon archive version with the Janacek Quartet doing the Janacek Quartets. This is the sort of reference standard iconic version for the Janacek Quartets, and it also includes a splendid piece, a quartet by Vítislav Novak, which is marvelous. I mean, Novak is such a good composer that no one pays attention to. His Quartet number 2, which begins with a fugue, like shades of Beethoven, and continues with a fantasia. It's in 2 big movements lasting half an hour. Wonderful work. So just keep in mind that this exists. The Janacek Quartet on Superfon Archive doing the Janacek Quartets with Vítislav Novak. So that's worth considering and looking into. Let me put this thing away. That goes there. Next, what is this? Oh, yeah, Handel's water music. Now, the water music, it's been done, and the fireworks music together. They've been done so well, so many times by so many different people. You could almost just throw them all blind in a sack and pull them out, with your eyes closed, and you're going to get good versions of the water music and the fireworks music. But for the two works together, there were two recordings that you mentioned that I didn't have on me at the time. But I went and grabbed them from the overflow room so that I could mention them now because they do deserve to be mentioned. They're really very, very fine. First, the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra on Deutsche Grammophon. Absolutely first class, brilliantly played, glowingly recorded, marvelous, marvelous performance of both the water music and the fireworks music. And the other one is John Eliot Gardiner. Now, I had so memories of this. And, that's what happens with pieces that you hear 100,000 times, that you have a million recordings of, and you have to kind of rank them. And Gardiner is an interpreter who, I think is a wonderful accompanist. He does great. His Mozart operas are fabulous. He does really good things as an accompanist because he goes in for, very strict choral discipline, and he usually gets very good singers. So he's done wonderful work in the vocal music medium. Even on period instruments, late stuff like his Verdi Requiem was very, very good. But I find as a conductor of orchestral music, he can be somewhat cold and faceless. But Handel's water music and fireworks music, there's not that much to interpret in them, right? You just keep it lively and keep it moving, and it kind of plays itself. That's the way Handel designed them. He didn't want them to require, major intervention from a single guy at a podium. They're made for an ensemble to all sort of get together and hopefully wing it and have it sound well. And of course, nothing under Gardiner is winging it. But I re-listened to this, and those of you who told me that Gardiner was better than I thought he was, you were right. It's very, very good. It's really, really good. That's the bottom line after my whole apologia and excuses. Gardiner's really very, very good in the water music and the fireworks music. Who's it with? It's with the English Baroque soloists, of course, which is the same people that's the Academy of Ancient Music, which is the same people that's the English Concert, which is the same people that's the Hanover Band, which is the same people that's the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. It's all the same people. They just change their name and maybe their seating assignments depending on who's conducting them. But this is splendid Handel. Gardiner's a great Handel conductor. He's just put out a new recording of Semele that I'm really looking forward to hearing because I love Semele. Oh, Semele is so much fun. And maybe I'll get a chance to talk about it with you folks. So, Gardiner for the water music and the fireworks music. Next, the ideal Wagner operas. Oh boy. I'm only talking about one of them because they're so long. This was one of those discussions. We were talking about Parsifal, and I brought up, I chose the, 62 Knappertsbusch or one of those things, the one that was on Philips. It's now on Decca, live from Bayreuth, because you got to have a live Parsifal from Bayreuth. And once you've done that, you never have to listen to Parsifal again. But some of you actually like Parsifal. Some of you, I dare say, know Parsifal a hell of a lot better than I know Parsifal, because I detest Parsifal. I think it's atrocious. And, especially all of the sort of, spiritual falderall that surrounds it. The plot is horrible. The text is horrible. The music is glorious. No argument for me there. It is gorgeous, gorgeous music. But I happen to believe that the reason the music exists is to support the text. And the text is just putrid, except for the harp glissando at the end. And maybe when Kundry in Act 3 goes, ding, and she's washing her feet with her hair. And it's, God, it's disgusting. Anyway, some of you pointed out, with respect to Parsifal, that one of the performances that it was worth considering, especially for those of us who are not into the faux spirituality and Biedermeier bourgeois religious gobbledygook that Wagner was purveying in writing the piece, was Herbert Kegel, because it is a swift, clinical, East German, atheistic account by a conductor who committed suicide. So how bad could it be, right? So here it is. Here is the Kegel Parsifal. I just wanted to tell you, first of all, again, those of you who mentioned those qualities, if such they are, were absolutely correct. It's a swift, flowing, very dramatic for Parsifal performance that's a lot of fun. Well, fun. I mean, it's so much a chore to listen to. And it's on Brilliant Classics, which means it's available, it's inexpensive, and it's beautifully recorded. And what's not to like? Who's the cast here? Oh, you've got Renee Colo, who does Parsifal every 15 minutes. And let's see, Ulrich Gold as Gornemans, and Gisela Schroeter as Kundry, and Theo Adam as Amfortas, and Klingsor is Reed Bunger, whatever Reed Bunger is, and let's see, and Titorel is Fred Tischler. I don't care about any of these people. I'm sorry. It's never going to change. But no, I did want to point this out because it is a wonderful Parsifal for those who want a different take on Parsifal, not the usual thing. So there it is on Brilliant Classics. Finally, yes, here we are. Finally, I did want to talk a little bit more about Mendelssohn's A Midsummer Night's Dream incidental music. There are two versions that I did not mention, one of which I really should have, and one of which I only remembered later. The first is Klaus-Peter Flor in this handy Mendelssohn box. This is a superb Mendelssohn box. I mean, Klaus-Peter Flor is a first-class Mendelssohn conductor. He's a pretty first-class conductor generally. He hasn't had the career he really deserved, I don't think. And these are beautiful performances with the Bamberg Symphony, and you get all kinds of good stuff in here. I mean, you get the piano concertos, you get all the major operas, you get Die Erste Walpurgisnacht, you get a bunch of songs, and it's really you get Die Hochzeit des Camacho Overture, the Camacho's Wedding, which is an early Mendelssohn home opera he wrote for to be played in his living room, because when you're really rich in those days, you had one hell of a living room. It's huge, his living room. He had a concert hall in his house. Not bad, So this is definitely worth having. It's worth having for the symphonies. It's worth having for everything in it. It's really, really good. And the Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream music is excellent. First class performance. If you can still find this box, it's very inexpensive and definitely worth having it. It sort of sets you up for Mendelssohn, like for the rest of your life, if you're looking for that. And finally, in Midsummer Night's Dream, one of the ones I wanted to mention that I had totally forgot existed, Dausgaard on Bis. This is with the Swedish Chamber Orchestra. Now, as you may know, Dausgaard and the Swedish Chamber Orchestra were doing a series of recordings of big romantic works reduced to chamber proportions. I mean, Brahms symphonies, Dvorak symphonies, Bruckner symphonies. They did Schumann, I think. Oh, it's horrible. It's just horrible. It's disgusting. It's a joke. It's stupid. I hate everything about it. Now, I mean, that said, much as I think the idea of reducing this stuff to pint size just because you can, not because it's better or it makes more sense or it's aesthetically pleasing, but just because why the hell not? Why not do it underwater? Why not play it upside down? Why not have the Temple University Kazoo Choir join you? I mean, it's just, some of these things that these people do make me crazy. However, However, A Midsummer Night's Dream works on a chamber orchestra. It's not a huge orchestra, and it's Mendelssohn. It doesn't need massive forces. And Dalsgaard leads a light, lively, and thoroughly delicious performance here on Bis. And I think you get the Hebrides and Die Schöne Melusine, the Fair Melusine Overture, in addition. And so it's a very, very nice disc. And I would be remiss if I trashed everything that Dalsgaard did with the Swedish Chamber Orchestra and did not make an exception for his Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream music. So that is the update we have covered. Let me see here. Oh my goodness. Bach, Haydn, Janacek, Handel, Wagner, and Mendelssohn. Right? Anybody else? Am I missing something? No, don't think so. Pretty good. Pretty good. There's just so much stuff out there. Can't possibly deal with all of it, but we can always come back and do more. That's the joy of this medium, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. We're going to do more and have a great time doing it. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Take care.